Yo, YouTube, and welcome back to the most above-average review show about The Mandalorian, starring two brothers from Pennsylvania with under 30 subscribers on the internet. I Have Spoken, where we recap, review, and celebrate each episode of The Mandalorian, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel, Comic John. I am your host, your director of distraction, John Hassinger, and it is an absolute privilege to have you with us today and every day, joining us from all over the globe to dig deep into the number one show in the world from Disney Plus, The Mandalorian. And with me, as always, on I Have Spoken, my brother, the only man above age 30 who can still stick his big toe in his mouth, Ryan Hassinger. Rye, thank you for joining.
I have spoken.
So why, Rye, is The Mandalorian right now the number one show in the world, the most in-demand show?
All right, well, let's take a couple things into consideration. Stranger Things, right? That was a streaming show, right? Older people, I don't think they really get streaming stuff. Younger people do. So it's probably a good when you throw Star Wars into like a streaming service, you're going to get the older crowd that watched it when they were kids. And then you're going to get us that watched it because the older crowd told us to watch it. And now you're going to get this younger crowd that only does streaming. So it's like they're combining like all these populations. It just seems like it's just hitting everybody. Everybody's kind of getting a little intrigued with it. So it's cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the main thing is that it's on a streaming service.
Yeah.
Attached to the biggest entertainment company on planet Earth. On day one, when 10 million people logged into Disney Plus, I feel like they saw this cool mask. And they were like, oh, what's that? Oh, and there's only like a handful of options to choose from, as far as like new content on there right now. So, and it was that. And I think, to me, the main reason is you don't have to be a fan of Star Wars to like this show. You don't need to know anything.
Yeah. Take me, for example. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know much, but it got my attention. It's great.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And good for it, right?
Jon Favreau. I feel like, he is a guy that he made a show that he knew fans would like at the very least. Like, they already have me. They already have the audience members like me. They don't need to do anything. Like, put Star Wars on it. I'm going to check it out.
Right.
And he kind of banked on like, yeah, but you don't need to be a big Star Wars fan because this will be cool enough. It's just going to have some connections. Now, jumping ahead, we obviously are 2 shows backed up. Due to scheduling, Rye was out of town. My whole family fell down with the flu and lice. So our schedules have been pushed. So we're going to try and do chapters 4 and 5. Real quick, Rye, chapter 4, what rating do you give it on a scale of 1 to 10?
1 to 10? I mean, they're pretty. I don't know if any of them are going to be really below 9. I mean, it's just really good stuff. So if you just want me to answer that question, I'd give it a 9. Reasons being, they keep introducing new old things. Like the ATST Walker. I was like, yes. I was like, they are so cool. So I'll give it a 9. And then well, if you want me to jump into the next one, they reintroduced the old sand people. So
yes,
I love all that. It's like this is all good stuff. It's like they're giving more of the old stuff a more elaborate story now, so I understand more about them, which is
right.
Great.
They're developing characters that we got like a blink of in the movies, like Sam people using sign language.
Yes,
that was pretty cool.
I was like, what is this? Is this what has been going on? They don't just scream like. They don't just scream at each other. They actually have sign language. I was like, this is great.
Right. They have like a sophisticated communication, system. And I thought maybe they were speaking when they were doing those weird yells and groans, but no, they were just yelling. They were just angry. So what, you're going to give a 9 to both. So here's the deal. I'm going to give an 8.5 to the first one.
4? You mean 4?
To 4.
Yeah.
And I'll get into that in a sec. And I'm going to give chapter 5 a 9.7 because It wasn't by definition a filler, but not a lot happened as far as like character development.
Yeah, but they have an ace card that they always need to pull out if they need to, and that is
What?
a speeder bike. I mean, who the hell doesn't want to fucking ride one of those? They're so awesome.
And to do it today, like to do it with our technology today, like I know you don't know, right? But they've yet again, Lucasfilm created this new camera that they're using for the first time to shoot this show, which is insane because the camera is almost like a dual projector where it projects like a virtual scene that you stand in. Like when you're not filming it, you are standing in it and it looks like you're in this pretend world.
Wow.
Right. I know. Take a while to wrap your head around that.
Yeah.
But again, it's more of Lucasfilm forwarding technology. And I'm like speeder bikes with this stuff and how they were kind of racing each other and then he flies away. You mentioned
back to Return of the Jedi and the woods and everything, which is like, you're like, how are they dodging all those trees? That's what I always think of. I'm like, no one's reactions are that fast, but I guess, Luke.
I barely miss like bumping the curb if I take a turn, too sharply. There's no way I was making it more than like 10 seconds on one of those speeder bikes without like nipping a branch.
Yeah. And then you hit one and you're done. You're like, oh God, you go flying 50 feet.
It's like if your kickstand broke on your motorcycle, like you're gone. You're going to go flying.
But hold on, go back to 4 real quick, John. Let's, and I don't want to like jump around here, but I mean, he took his helmet off, right? Like he ate food, and that was like my big thing on the last show we did. I didn't understand, like, does this guy eat food ever, and you saw him like put it down, and
it was such a cool conversation because she says, "When's the last time you took your helmet off?" And he said, "I was probably around those little kids' ages," and she said, "No, like around other," or no, he said, she said something like, "So you've had a mask on this long, or when was the last time you took it off alone, not in front of someone?" And he said yesterday.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's like, okay, so he's careful around who he takes it off.
Okay,
around.
But he can take it off though. That's the
right.
thing. Okay.
He just doesn't want anyone of importance to see him. That's why he's fine taking it off in front of kids. So.
And then another thing I want to know is, like, do all Mandalorians know sign language? And is there like, do you ever think of like Navy SEAL training? Like, is that what the Mandalorians go through too? Like, do they go through this like type of like training where they pass and they all of a sudden they start to get their armor and stuff? Like, that would be a neat kind of,
right, like a flashback or yeah. And I think they're gonna have to get into that somehow. Because, it's a religion. Like, they learn every aspect of it, starting at a young age. And I don't know that sign language, but that's such a good question because they're bounty hunters. So they have to, like, jump all over the place and talk and negotiate with all these different races that exist in that universe. So sign language was probably something that they had to pick up just to be able to move. I loved in chapter 4 all the Yoda with the little kid stuff and how the Mandalorian is like, he like cares about the kid now. Like he's defensive of it. It's not just this thing that he's getting money for. They're showing that he's got a soul, that he has a heart, that he cares, and that he obviously has some sort of connection with the baby because he was a foundling. Like he was all alone and the Mandalorians found him.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of cool because he's. But the only thing I feel like they're missing out a little, they're losing me a little bit on it is if he's playing with like these little kids, like how about like kind of show him like doing a little something with his, like even in the first Star Wars, these aren't the droids you're looking for. Just like a little something, like he like messes with the kids, like he's playing hide and seek with them, and he whittles them, and
right.
So like you can't find them or something. Like I don't know, just something small. But they haven't done anything since that huge monster, that he was battling. So I want
Yes.
to see a little of that, but
The
we'll get.
Mudhorn. Yeah, I know. I'm like, it's almost like lightsabers, where
Hey.
you want more of it,
Hmm.
but then you go and see the prequels where there's lightsabers all over the place, and you're like, ugh, is this too much of a good thing? They don't want to like overdo Yoda doing or Baby Yoda doing the Force. Uh,
Well, you know
just
what? Not to relate it to Game of Thrones, which was another great thing. You wanted those dragons to fly around and like burn everything, and they just never would do it until like the very I mean, the last season, they finally started like breaking that out. So I
right.
get it. You hold it in. It's
Yeah,
good.
you want it to have value, so you don't want to like overdo it. But yeah, a little trick with the kids would have been kind of cool. It was funny when he spits the frog out.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
Uh,
just like, and it just
oh,
came like slobbering out.
so another quick question, John.
Slash.
Who? I don't. I was a little confused at the ATST. Like, does it live on its own, or how is it like how like it had
Yeah, it
like
was like a
red.
T-Rex.
Yeah, I was like, does it have red eyes now? I was like, what? I was
Right.
like,
Yeah, I really think so. The Bryce Dallas Howard, Ron Howard's daughter, she's in the two Jurassic Park movies. She directed that episode, and I was like, oh, how interesting. She brought us a T-Rex into
yeah,
this movie
that
from her
is
other
so
movies.
weird. Like all of a
And
sudden, it was like it had its own little like eyeball and light. No one was steering it. Like remember, Chewbacca was driving one of those at one point. So tell me, what am I missing?
And this kind of brings me to the only thing I wrote down where I was like, it's not that I didn't like it, but I was like, wait a second. But no, the ATST Walker is manned by the like leftover Empire people that are still like holding on. So that thing wasn't like running on its own. It had red eyes because it was on at night. So the guys inside it had some light on that made it look red, which I
Oh,
thought was just really
okay.
cool.
So that
I
makes
mean,
sense 'cause I've never seen one on at night before. Okay, now we
right,
got it.
right. So
Okay.
first time we saw it at night, and they wanted it to look like a monster, like this like
Yeah.
dinosaur that had eyes that,
Yeah.
and then here's where I got kind of weird. Their whole plan was to lure it into a hole, hole
Yeah.
of water, so it can fall into it. And
Right.
it got to that hole and it lifted its foot, and then it looked down and it put its foot back, and then like a minute later, it put its foot forward and stepped in and fell.
Right.
I was like,
Yeah.
why did it like forget that it was on like the bank of this hole? But I thought it was so good. I love how this show makes all the same sounds.
Oh,
I don't know why that makes me so excited, but just hearing the blaster of it sound just like Empire Strikes Back,
yeah.
it's so cool.
And the speeder bikes too. Speeder bikes are the same thing.
Same sound. I mean, I noticed it in the first episode. His gun
Yeah.
sound just like Boba Fett's. That like the two female characters were great that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
did. A lot of people were surprised with this Gina Serrano, who played this character named Cara Dune. She was a drop soldier for the rebellion. So I believe she was this badass that like when the rebels had a problem with like a little bunker of the Empire, kind of weeding out everything after Return of the Jedi, they would send her in and she would just fucking clean up shop and take everyone else that was still there down.
Is she stuck on that planet or something? Like I don't like she was just kind of like sitting there or hanging out, or was she hiding? That's
Yeah, I think she was kind of like, yeah, this is my place, and I'm like the only badass here. Like, we don't
right.
need another badass Mandalorian
Right.
showing
Yeah.
up and getting in the way. She was in Deadpool, Fast and Furious, and a bunch of crappy movies, and a lot of people like not a fan of hers until this episode. And I don't know her much other than, but no, I don't know her before this, and I thought she was good.
Well, let me ask you this question, and then we can get off the episode 4. But what were those like hot tubs that they were like, it's like the one, like they when the Mandalorian and that other girl like went to go like surprise the base camp, there was like these like tubs of I don't know what it was, acid.
She like put the guy in
Yeah,
one
yeah, yeah.
to
So
like kill him.
was that
No idea.
it's so weird.
Maybe it's a bantha tank, and you don't know what that is probably by name, but you know what it is by seeing it. After the abominable snowman rips Luke's face apart, he's in that
Oh yeah. He's like floating in there, getting like shot every
in
once
in a diaper.
Oh my gosh, he is in a diaper. That is great.
It's just a guess. I could be wrong. Just a couple other moments in that episode that I liked. The mom. And I also really liked how when they were in that bar, when he first sees her, or shortly after, they start talking and she says, well, you know, I haven't really been working for the Empire since Endor. And I was like, oh, yeah, Endor, when we won, when the rebels won.
Okay.
When they beat the Empire. That was a fun throwback. Now, on to Chapter 5. I've been dying to talk to you about this episode, Rye, because of the last 2 seconds in the episode, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So this episode, in my opinion, overall, when it was done, because I didn't catch it the first watch, I was like, well, they introduced 2 characters and then killed them off.
Yeah, it was cool.
I was like, but what's going on here? Like, why would you do that? It just feels empty. It's like, okay, well, nothing changed here. Like nothing occurred.
Yeah.
And then I went back and rewatched it.
And you're okay with it now?
I think so. So Fennec Shand, she was that chick who's also another badass bounty hunter.
Yeah.
We think we saw her get shot and killed.
Yeah, so she's dead.
And then at the very end of the episode, they show footsteps, and you hear footsteps walking. And these footsteps have like a jingle to them, like there's spurs jingling. And then he gets up to her and he bends down, and then the episode ends.
Yeah, so I didn't see who was it. I didn't see who it was.
Well, I did some real super nerd research, right? And I fired up Empire Strikes Back. And I watched the scene where they kidnap Han Solo and they're interrogating him, and he's in the back and he's screaming, and Vader comes out of the room and the door shuts behind him, and Boba Fett is standing there and he says, he's no good to me, dead. And Vader says, well, we'll compensate you if he dies, if he doesn't survive the freezing process. Right. And then those 2 walk down a hallway and somewhere else. And as Boba Fett walks past the screen, his footsteps make the exact same sound. No. Now, why would you add in that sound and not show his face?
So,
unless the most badass bounty hunter in the world vibrobladed himself out of that Sarlacc pit and is coming back to claim himself as the greatest Mandalorian in the galaxy.
That's amazing. I mean, that is all right. When you told me to like pay close attention, I thought you wanted me to hear that chick that helped him fix his plane say, "Oh, where are you gonna dump him? Oh, dump him in the pit of despair," or whatever she said. Like dump him in some. Did you hear that part?
I don't even remember that part.
All right. Well, then it was nonsense then, because I had heard it. I'm like, oh, cool. I don't know what that means. John, explain.
Right. When you didn't text me at all about like, wait a minute, who was that? I'm like,
yeah. I just figured I'm like, well, it's got to be someone important. But I would have never guessed Boba Fett because I thought he was gone. So, wow.
So here's a little history. Ready? The guy Dave Filoni, who's creating this thing with Jon Favreau, he got his start at Lucasfilms creating the animated series called Star Wars Clone Wars. Not the movie Attack of the Clones, but it's the Clone Wars that happened between episode 2 and 3. Oh. And in that series, you discover that when he was chopped in half, Darth Maul, someone saved him and gave him robotic legs, and that whole series, like season 3, tells the whole story of Darth Maul like being put back together, like he's like half droid. So you get like 7 or 8 episodes with Darth Maul. You get his whole past, you get like stuff about his family. Whoa. And that's the same guy that's writing this show. So I'm like, he's giving us more of a character that we got like that much of in Star Wars. And he's giving us like a whole bunch of him. And I just think it makes sense. He's going to go get that badass chick, bring her, help her come back to life. And then the 2 of them are going to go after him. And Boba Fett's going to be the main villain of season 2. That's why season 2 is already in production. They renewed it before season 1 even came out. It makes so much sense to have him as the main bad guy.
Oh my God. Well, because that's everyone's favorite. So wait, hold on. And just so we're clear, like this guy, he's gonna get a rocket pack, right? What's his name? The Mandalorian. He'll eventually get one. That'll be cool. And did he go into the bar that was in the first? Like, was that bar the doot 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 doot? Was that the same bar that he went into?
Yeah. So when he's flying in at the beginning, when he gets chased and the guy says, I can bring in cold or I can bring in warm, and he goes, that's my line, and he shoots him.
Yeah. I thought that was
I was like, you don't say that in the Star Wars world. Like, that's my line. Like, you're not wrestlers. So then when he starts talking to like the transmission guy, they're like Mos Eisley, space station, whatever. That's Tatooine. That's where Luke's born. That's where the Sarlacc pit is that Boba Fett fell down in Return of the Jedi. Yes!
Oh.
Jabba. It all makes sense.
Oh, that now I'm getting it. Okay. Very
But I'm just waiting for them to let me down because it's just too cool of an idea.
Oh my gosh, that is really cool. Wow. Now I have to go rewatch it more intensely. I'll look.
And
you went back to Empire Strikes Back and kind of like
I fast forwarded through, and I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, why would they emphasize spurs and that the sound of his steps? And then Boba Fett walks by and he's got something on him that jingles like that. And there's another scene, Ryan. This almost annoys me. In episode 1, Boba Fett's in the background. You just don't see him. Now, I'm like, in chapter 1, I'm like, is it Boba Fett or is it a Mandalorian wearing the same shit? Apparently, none of them wear anything. Like, no one has the same uniform. It's like a pair of jeans. They're all different. So he's in there. He's already alive. And they're just giving us eye drops of hints.
Now I'm like, oh, come on. I want him to have like scars on him, so like you see he got out of there and stuff.
Right, like his stuff is like really messed up.
Yeah.
But he's alive and he's Boba Fett and he's, like we're going to get the Boba Fett that we all were like, oh my God, he's the best. But we got like that much of him in the movies. And then it's like, what team are you on? Because there's the old school fans that are like, fuck the new Mandalorian, Boba Fett. And then there's going to be people that love Mando. It's really, really genius if it happens. And I'm waiting for someone to confirm it. This YouTube guy that I follow, Emergency Awesome, go check him out. He's the best. He's like, Boba Fett's in the show. Like, this is confirmed. But I haven't seen, Favreau or Disney or anyone put out words saying that it's him because I still think they want it to be a mystery. And
I think to like the years that Boba Fett he was in these movies and his like technology is just so far behind, So I'm like, oh man, this poor guy, he is never gonna be able to go up against this like new age like Mandalorian, because I just think of like the 70s and like his little like blades on his arms or something,
Or his like rope. that string, really. It was like a fishing line that wraps around Luke. I'm like, that's the greatest bounty hunter. That's what he uses. Rope twine. That's pathetic. Yes, I loved how they were in Mos Eisley. They were at Tatooine. All those familiar things. It was so cool. I'm waiting for two things. Number one, that IG droid to come back. And I think he'll be back in the finale because Taika Waititi is directing the finale.
Wait, is that the guy in the beginning that helped him? Like
that
he was
droid?
Yeah. Okay.
Who IG-11 and IG-88 is in Empire. Like they have, like remember when Darth Vader's got all the bounty hunters lined up and Boba Fett's one of them?
Yeah.
There's a droid that looks just like that one called IG-88.
Okay.
In Empire Strikes Back.
Who's the guy that talked to him at the bar where, the bar from Tatooine when he like walked in, he was like, that. He was like, Wasn't he like talking with the?
Yeah, that guy's from Jabba's palace.
Yeah, I knew he looked familiar. Yeah,
he's like their HR guy. Like he like C-3PO and R2D2 like Jobs.
he's like, we're gonna need a W-2. Let me.
Yeah, we need your work history, a skills checklist. A droid is serving him at the bar. And if you remember when Luke and Ben go there, the first thing the bartender says is no droids. Like, get them out of here.
Oh, weird.
Since the Empire's gone, like droids have just taken over, I guess.
And just real quick, how come he didn't want the droids to fix his ship? Remember he kept yelling at that lady? He's like, no droids. Like them either. Well, I don't understand.
Remember in the very first episode, the taxi cab pulls up with like an R2D2-ish, and he goes, no droids. And then that funny comedian guy drives up and picks him up.
He doesn't want the droids. Will that be explained later? Yeah.
Sure. There's just people that have had a bad experience with droids that are like racist towards them. It's basically what it is. We only have 3 episodes left.
Is that right? Is that it goes to 8?
7 and 8. Now, 6 and 7. So 6 will be Friday. 7 will be Wednesday.
Why?
Because Star Wars opens on Thursday.
Oh, smart. I bet you 7 will be the best. Like that'll be one of the best ones.
I don't know. Right. Thor Ragnarok was directed by Taika Waititi, and he directs the final episode. This guy is unbelievable. He's like the next greatest director in the world. He did Jojo Rabbit. He's a genius.
All right.
He voices that droid. Initiating self-destruct.
Now I'm like so anxious because I need to go watch 5 again.
I know. It would be such a smart move. It's like, I don't want people calling it fan service. It's like, this is the only option. We have a show called Mandalorian. There was a character that is a Mandalorian that we didn't get enough of.
Right. Yeah.
So come on, let's do it.
Yeah. So if you're not watching it, you better start now, or start and catch up.
Right. Yeah. If you think Baby Yoda is a big part of this, just wait, join in. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for us. Make sure to jump down in the comment section. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to see next in the show, The Mandalorian, the #1 show in the world on Disney Plus streaming service. I am Comic John Rye. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week to discuss Chapter 6, and maybe, just maybe, there's a little secret coming for not just you, but for my brother with me as well. And we'll get to that in the next week or two. A little secret, a little surprise, a little good holiday cheer. I am John. Thank you for listening. Rye, any closing words?
John, you did good. It was awesome.
Thank you, brother. Yes, my blood pressure was at a normal rate for this show. I have a lot more calmed down. Do enjoy doing these shows in the day. But that's it, guys. We'll see you next week.
We got to go.
Oh, hey. Make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment and hit the notification bell. And if you're finding me for the first time, I do trailer reaction videos, hot take movie reviews, news briefs on anything Marvel, DC, Star Wars. You'll love it. Thanks.